let me start by saying that there were a small group of us that met on February 25th, 2004. We met outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and Vicki Colello was there, Adele Ferrante was there, Kirk Laughlin, you were there, Deb Rowe, I don't know if Deb's in the audience this morning, but Deb, good morning, Deb. Deb was there. I don't know if Richard Lawrence is in the room yet this morning, who's now with NAPSEP, but he was with Cape Cod Community College. Anyway, there were 40 of us, just 40 of us, that started the discussion on workforce education for the renewable energy and energy efficiency fields. And what we decided on that February day was that we really needed to get everybody together. And that's exactly what we did. Starting in November of 2006, thanks to Joe Cerubi and his crowd at Hudson Valley Community College, we met over at Hudson Valley, just across the river, on their campus. And in November of 2006, Jeff Wolf, who was then the CEO of Grow Solar, he posed the question to us. He said, what are the jobs? Not where are the jobs, but what are the jobs? And then Jeff proceeded to answer his question. He said they're electricians, they're carpenters, they're plumbers, they're project managers, they're engineers. And what Jeff's message to us way back in November of 2006, which was absolutely right on, was that they're not necessarily green jobs, but they're the regular jobs that have add-on skills. And that was a message that kind of got lost along the way. We met then again about 16 months later in March of 2008. And at that point, it was clear that there was real potential for the renewable energy fields and industries to be an economic driver. And we began to have that wonderful conversation that we could look at the environment, we could look at economic development, and we did not need a firewall between the two of them. So that was a very important message that came out of 2008. We then started going up the curve as we gained more momentum nationally with the whole green job buzz that came along. And in 2009, as we got an amazing amount of federal investment into workforce development, we began to have the over-expectation of what green jobs could do for us. And where we came at that point was that we kind of exceeded what the reality was. And unfortunately, as we moved up the curve in November of 2009, as we moved through into 2010, green jobs became a marketing term. It basically became almost a soundbite. And that really did us damage. We kind of derailed where we were going at that point, because what we really needed was a long-term kind of sustainable progression to how we were going to build green jobs into the market. So we kind of reached the height of everything as we met in 2009. And at that point, Deb Rowe gave a very important message to us when we met. And Deb said, every job should have a green tinge to it. We're way up on top at this point. And when Deb said that, she said, every job will have a green tinge to it if we pay attention. And that was key at that point, because we needed to pay attention. So at the height of it all, we had all this green confetti kind of floating around. And typically with confetti, you have, it's really pretty, it's very exciting, but it falls to the ground very quickly. And we began to have to sweep up all this green confetti that had kind of landed as we approached our conference in March of 2011. Deb at that point came back to us and said, how do we make sure we create explosion, not implosion? And again, it was such a sage advice to us How do we make sure we don't over crumble on the burden and the expectation we had set for ourselves? So here we are in November of 2012, and we have our work cut out for us. And one of the questions that I certainly have with everything going on, the question really is, are we losing our footing, or are we in fact gaining traction? And there's no doubt that over the course of the election period, clean energy, climate change, it really wasn't even hardly a whisper until the last couple of weeks due to a horrific storm. But are we really gaining traction, or are we losing our footing? No surprise, folks, I certainly feel that we are definitely gaining traction. And I say so for three reasons. The first reason is that we are seeing better balance between the training opportunities and the actual local job market. And we really kind of got out of whack on this one. With the influx of the stimulus money, we had training going. Everybody had their green shingle out at that point. And we were so out of balance where people were expecting green jobs, and in fact, there weren't any in terms of what the market could support at that point. But we are gaining better balance. We're seeing training based on market value. What are the local needs? In fact, at 10:30 this morning, one of the sessions is dealing with jobs, and we have the good fortune of being able to report on the 2012 job census that the Solar Foundation has put out, showing us that there's been a growth of over 13% from last year in solar jobs across the country. And this is really a great piece of news that, in fact, Phil Jordan is doing a press conference on it as we speak, but we do have very good news about this. But we are seeing a much better balance between the training that you all offer and then the jobs that are in the marketplace for the students that graduate from your programs. The second indicator that I feel is very much out there and is so important, we have spent a lot of time raising the bar, setting standards, making sure there are best practice and common practices out there that are being followed. We have job task analyses, and anybody who knows me understands the value that I feel on third-party assessment through credentialing. I promise, guys, I am not going to get on my credentialing soapbox as much as I would like to, but this is critical. If we are really going to build a market, we have to make sure there's competency built in to the infrastructure. And I want to compliment the different organizations, some of who are here today, that offer credentialing for practitioners of all different sorts within the energy efficiency arena, as well as in the solar and small wind arena. I do want to mention that leadership is so important when it comes to setting quality and building on competency. And I just want to mention that the work that the Department of Energy, the U.S. Department of Energy does is amazing. Benjamin Goldstein, Jen Summers, Josh Olson, you guys are real leaders. And I can't tell you how important it is what you do to make this bar increase and make sure that we follow higher standards as we go forward. The third indicator is that we are moving in, hooray, from the margins, much more into the mainstream. And my good friends, Joe Cerubi and Jerry Ventry, really tell us how important it is with a lot of the courses that we offer to make sure they're integrated into all the existing trades and business courses that are out there, engineering courses and so forth. Incredibly important that we don't hang out there and are vulnerable to market fluctuations or volatility, that we are incorporated and we become part of the mainstream in the different course offerings through a lot of different disciplines. My dear friend Sarah White also enforces this, as she says, making all jobs and skill sets greener. Very much goes back to what Deb said, that we really have to look at a much different perspective, not separating out green, but certainly bringing it into the mainstream. So those are the three very important indicators, I think, that have brought us forward. That's why we are gaining traction. It hasn't been easy, folks. We've had a lot of different things thrown at us over the course of the years. Certainly the economy. We had what? We had 30 seconds of hope 4 years ago, and then the economy sank. We have off again and on again incentives. We're struggling right now with the tax credit for wind, capacity glut. We have a very high inventory, especially in the solar market. That's doing crazy things to prices, as well as we're looking at bankruptcies and bow-outs from major companies because they just can't absorb the lower prices that are in the marketplace right now. Natural gas, major player changing the energy environment domestically, and of course, China has really changed the market. So we've had a lot of things thrown at us, but we've been good at this. We've been doing a lot of ducking over the years, so I have every encouragement that we're going to continue in a very positive upward motion. Without a doubt, the last couple of weeks have been very tough. And if I can just go back, this was the cover of the Bloomberg Business Weekly, and I think it sums up everything where we really need to be right now. We can no longer be quiet about global change and global disruption. We've seen horrific images of personal and property damage. This is our time to not be wallflowers. So we really need to step up to the plate and make sure that not only are we heard, but that things are really done. Let me mention that back in September, President Bill Clinton spoke at the Solar Power International Conference. And it was just amazing that we had him there. But this is what he said to the group. And he said that the solar industry is in the future business. And when he meant solar industry, he also meant renewables and energy efficiency. He was just talking to a group of solar folks. But he said to the audience that they represented the future. And the same message applies this morning to all of you that are here. What was interesting was that a month earlier, in August, the president spoke at a clean energy summit in Nevada. What he said is that we have to be prepared to pay the price of time. Translated, we need to be patient with the work that we are doing and with the results that we want to see. It does take time. I'm not sure I have much patience left, but I think, though, it's a good message. This is not going to happen overnight. We are in this for the long run. If this is going to be a quick fix, we would have been done by now. I know a lot of you guys have tough times with lower enrollments, less interested management, but we really do need to hang in there, because as also what the president said was that this is a very large arena, but our small actions is what will make it happen. So I want to leave you this morning with these messages, and just with my message that what you do is so important. And I thank you all for everything that you do to move us forward. So welcome and thank you.